His family, justice will be served. He will not have died in vain. But we cannot allow the righteous cries and peaceful protesters to be drowned out by an angry mob. The biggest victims of the rioting are peace-loving citizens in our poorest communities. And as their president, I will fight to keep them safe. I will fight to protect you. I am your president of law and order and an ally of all peaceful protesters. But in recent days, our nation has been
the president has not been an ally of all peaceful protesters. Remember, this is the same president who said that NFL players who peacefully took a knee should be fired.
To safeguard their residents. Innocent people have been savagely beaten, like the young man in Dallas, Texas, who was left dying on the street, or the woman in upstate New York viciously attacked by dangerous thugs. Small business owners.
We are going to do a whole separate explainer on the heavily racially weighted term of thugs. It's really, it is a term that is what could at best be described as a dog whistle term to call to mind a certain stereotype of black men.
Have been vandalized. One of our most historic churches was set ablaze. A federal officer in California, an African-American enforcement hero, was shot and killed. These are not acts of peaceful protest. These are acts of domestic terror.
Now, it is one of the things that's remarkable here is that President Trump, when he sees an act of police violence, says that this is the act of one bad apple, but police are good. But here he is labeling the protesters overall as people who are committing acts of violence, and the vast majority of protests throughout the nation have been peaceful.
And we will succeed, 100%. We will succeed. Our country always wins. That is why I am taking immediate presidential...
Our country does not necessarily always win. There's a strong case to be made that various wars, from the war on drugs to the war in Vietnam, have been big losses for the United States. And the war on the coronavirus has also claimed more lives than multiple U.S. wars, and that appears to be not a win.
Therefore, the following measures are going into effect immediately. First, we are ending the riots and lawlessness that has spread throughout our country. We will end it now. Today, I have strongly recommended to every governor to deploy the National Guard in sufficient numbers that we dominate the streets. Mayors and governors must establish an overwhelming law enforcement presence until the violence has been quelled. If a city or state refuses to take the actions that are necessary to defend the life and property of their residents, then I will deploy the United States military and quickly solve the problem for them.
This is a remarkable claim that the president has just made. He has basically said that he will invade. He will invade states with the U.S. military against the will of their governors. This is a startling turn of events.
Thousands and thousands of heavily armed soldiers, military personnel, and law enforcement officers to stop the rioting, looting, vandalism, assaults, and the wanton destruction of property.
Again, the vast majority of protests have been peaceful and organized.
Enforced. Those who threaten innocent life and property will be arrested, detained, and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. I want the organizers of this terror to be on notice that you will face severe criminal penalties and lengthy sentences in jail. This includes Antifa and others who are leading instigators of this violence.
Okay, Antifa is not a real organization. When Trump says he's going to declare Antifa a terrorist organization, A, there is no actual organization to label, and B, the terrorism law is limited to foreign groups and does not typically apply to domestic ones. At least this president has been reluctant to label white nationalist terrorists as terrorists.
Prosperity, our freedom, and our very way of life. But where there is no law, there is no opportunity. Where there is no justice, there is no liberty. Where there is no safety, there is no future. We must never give in to anger or hatred. If malice or violence reigns, then none of us is free. I take these actions today with firm resolve and with a true and passionate love for our country. By far, our greatest days lie ahead. Thank you very much, and now I'm going to pay my respects to a very, very special place. Thank you very much.
Okay, so the president is leaving without taking questions. He said that he is going to pay tribute to a very special place. I'm looking up to see what that is. But what we have seen from the President of the United States just now is a rather startling announcement. He has just said that if governors of states where protests are taking place do not deploy large numbers of National Guard troops to curtail those demonstrations, that he will send U.S. armed forces by his own order against the will of governors into the states. This is not something that we have really seen. I think any of us in our lifetimes. There was a conspiracy theory floating in Texas at one point that President Obama was going to invade Texas. It was not true. It was not true then. It is truly a historic thing for the President of the United States to threaten to invade U.S. states. Now, the President is referring to the Insurrection Act. It is a law that was signed into being in 1807 under President Jefferson. It has been used a number of times over the years, though not seemingly quite in this way. It has almost hardly been used at all since the 1960s civil rights era. It was